I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really excited about my next guest. We actually got connected through a B Team referral network. So, you know how I'm on here all the time talking about the book club and how it's important for us to make sure that we do the things that we need to be the best version of ourselves. Well, Leslie and I are in the same chapter of V Team. And so that's how we got connected. And so we're really excited to be here today to share some wisdom and insight during these kind of uncertain times. So I am going to give Leslie the opportunity to introduce herself to everyone before we get into the interview.
Thank you, Michelle. Really pleased to be here. Thank you very much for having me. So,
You're
as
welcome.
Michelle said, I am Lesley Thomas and I am the Money Mastery Business Coach. I help female coaches and other service-based entrepreneurs better understand their money story and to realize how their negative money beliefs have impacted their business and to help them unpack those beliefs and then have the opportunity to revisit their business with a fresh pair of eyes and to reevaluate those decisions they have taken and have the opportunity to put in place some changes to create a brand new signature system based on the results that they bring for their clients. And that in turn reminds them of why they set up their business in the first place, adds additional income to their bottom line, and gives them a business they truly love.
I love that. And I'm over here sharing us on Facebook and LinkedIn. So excuse me for going over here. This is like, you never know what you're getting into when you do these live broadcasts. It's like, oh, I do need somebody to do this and field the questions. It's really funny. You just have to learn as you go. But money mastery and just anything around money right now is a great topic because many people have had to really go within and figure out, do I really need this or not? Because, they may have limited income. They're starting from scratch in a lot of places, or they're saving money and they're not sure where they should be saving. You're not going to the dry cleaners or taking a lot of these excursions through recreation and things like that. So you do have a little bit more money in your account. So we could go either way. But the first thing I would say for people who are having it hard right now, they have downsized or their income has drastically been reduced. What are some tips about them moving forward and knowing what the best thing is to do with their money? Because a lot of times we spend money, but we're not really conscious of, is this something I should be spending it on? Or, should I be saving this or whatever? So what advice would you give them right now?
Absolutely. I think the
Mhm.
first thing to do is to write everything down. I think
Mhm.
we, as you say, we can be very unconscious with regards to how we go about spending our money. So I think it is a case of literally going back over your bank statements and really understanding what is coming in and going out of your household. So what do you actually need to be buying at the moment? What can you
Mhm.
absolutely let go of? And what many people are surprised about is those small amounts of recurring expenditure that are automatically coming out of their bank accounts month after month after month, that they don't pay much regard to because it's not necessarily a large sum of money. But if you add up all those small pots of cash, then you would be surprised how much they add up to. And I think we've all been guilty of signing up for different subscriptions that say free for the first 2 weeks, free for the first 28 days. You put your credit card number in and then you forget all about them. And what happens? The subscription company go ahead and they take your money and they
Mhm.
keep your money. So until you actually go in and closely analyze what you've been spending your money on, then actually you could simply be, it's the equivalent of it falling down the back of the sofa and not
Mhm.
realizing you're actually spending it. Also, I think because we are not doing the same things as we were,
Mhm.
do we need to be buying so many new clothes at the moment? Do we
Right.
need to be taking out or continuing to take out subscriptions to travel magazines, for example?
Mm.
We're not traveling. And I think if we sit down and break it out exactly what we're spending our money on at the moment, we'd be surprised where the savings can be made.
I love that. And right now, a lot of people, well, you have some people who spend in order to cope with stress, anxiety, and things like that. It's like a getaway for them to spend money. And what advice would you give them? Because right now, maybe they're not going out to the stores, but we still have Amazon, and Amazon is like, hey, you order it, we can get it to you, next day, sometimes same day, depending on what the item is. So, what are some things that we should be thinking about, that can kind of put a little mental block right there to stop
Okay,
us from doing that?
absolutely. First of all, it is the logical thing of, do I actually really need this? Is it
Mhm.
just shiny object syndrome? Is it something that I'm going to be utilizing? Is it something that is going to be required for this period of time? Also, set yourself a little challenge. How much money can I save this month? Put it into a pot. So rather than making that purchase on Amazon, look at how much it was going to cost and say, for example, $25, $30. I won't buy that. I'll put it into a pot. Each time you feel inclined to want to go and make a purchase, pause. Do I need it? No, I think I don't. Put that money in a pot. Because what is happening the month after next? Christmas. And we all know how expensive Christmas is. So if we can be more mindful, so rather than make purchases that are done on a whim, spur of the moment, to give us that short burst of satisfaction because we've spent that money, instead, pause. Do I really need it? And if not, put that money aside into a jar and then check out each week, each month, how much money is in there. Because you will get that same level of satisfaction from seeing that pot of savings grow as you will from seeing something turn up that you don't really need, that you probably put in a drawer and you don't use again.
That's a good point. Now, so, you brought up a good point about seeing your money go, with it actually being in a pot physically in front of us. And for many people, that's a game changer because, only thing we see in our wallets is plastic for the most part. So we don't really have that accountability to actually physically say, hey, this cash I'm going to exchange for this. So is that one of the things that we should be doing, is carrying cash more so than credit?
No, not necessarily, because obviously what you can do instead, if you don't have the cash in your wallet, that's a very good point. More and more of us are reliant on our debit cards, our credit cards, etc. First of all, don't use your credit card, because all you're doing obviously is building up more debt. But
Mhm.
instead, make a small piece of paper and write down. So whatever you were going to buy, maybe it was a new CD, maybe it was a DVD, maybe it was something for the kitchen. Write that down on a piece of paper. So rather than clicking on buy on Amazon, write down $30, $20, $10, whatever it was, and put that into a jar. And then at
Mm.
your chosen period, take those bits of paper out and add those up, because that will have the same effect in your mind. By being mindful about how we spend money, we will
Mhm.
start to be more aware of the cost of that. A good
Mhm.
example is we're not going out to the coffee shop as often as
Right.
we do. So that $3, $4 that we were spending 2 or 3 times a day, possibly when we were in the office, going for coffee, that cost is no longer there. So again,
Mm-hmm.
where you have written down what your new expenditure is, so what you're currently spending, you can equally have another column listing out what you're no longer spending money on. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
good habit, because that means when we start returning back to normal, hopefully sooner rather than later next year, then we already have given ourselves those new money habits. Do I really need to spend $12 a day on coffee?
Mm-hmm.
You multiply that up by the number of days a week you're doing that over a month, over a 12-month period, you'll start to be more aware of why money seemed to be leaking out of your bank account. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
leaking out at all. You were making that payment, but because they're small payments, they don't necessarily register in quite the same way. Once you start
Mm-hmm.
writing it down, once you start realizing, that is when you're making that connection between how much you are spending versus how much you could be saving.
I love that. Now, and so on the other side of the coin, we have people who are saving money. They're not going to the dry cleaners. They're not dealing with a lot of these expenses from actually going physically to work, eating out for lunch, things like that. So, what are some things that we can, low hanging fruit, that we can actually implement in terms of saving immediately that we're not necessarily conscious of?
Okay, so do those same people have credit card bills? If they have credit card bills, could they actually be making larger payments? Because obviously, the larger
Mm,
the payment you make, the smaller the interest being charged the following month, and the quicker you will pay off that debt.
mhm,
Equally, the money that you are saving, because you're not having to drive to the office, you're not having to buy lunch when you're out, again, write that down. Write down
mhm,
how much of that money is being saved and consider what you want to do with that money. For some people, obviously, we need a vision of what
mhm,
life is going to look like on the other side of the pandemic. We can't travel at the moment, but what you can be doing is saving towards something to be looking forward to. As we head into the winter months, it's always nice to be able to think about something nice that's happening in the spring, something nice that's been happening something nice happening in the summer. It could be something as simple as saying, we can't be with our nearest and dearest at the moment, so I'm going to save that money for a period in time when we can get together and we can have a nice meal together. You can treat somebody. You can be thinking about a particular item of clothing you might like to have. But by saving it now, it gives you the opportunity to make decisions later with regards to what you want to do with a more substantial pot of money, as opposed to, again, small amounts leaking out. But those small amounts leaking out do add up to a large amount. So whilst we have the opportunity to save now, whilst the hard cash might not be in our wallet because it's in our bank account, sit down and work out what you're saving. Because again, when your mind can register that feeling, that's when that level of excitement builds up, because all of a sudden, whereas you may not have been able to afford to save before, you now have the opportunity to save. And say we have, I don't know, another 3 to 6 months in this same situation, perhaps it might be longer. But if we look at how much we've saved this month and then add that to the second month and the third month and the fourth month, by the time we are out of the pandemic and able to go back to a life as we remember it, we will then have a pot of cash to do something with. And that can either to be paying off existing debt, or it can go towards something that we need, our family needs in the future, or it can go towards simply enjoying a treat. Because people who save can sometimes save for their future at the detriment of their now. So it is a balancing act, and it is about, and this is where money beliefs can play into this, because our money beliefs were formed when we were children, not as a result of how we were around money, but how money was around us, the relationship our parents had with money. So the tendencies that we have today with regards to money were actually formed a long time ago. So if our parents had a tendency to be very frugal, to not treat us or themselves very often, we might have that same tendency now, that we don't believe, even if we have the money, we don't believe in treating ourselves. We see the ability to treat ourselves or our family as something that should only happen at Christmas time or our birthdays. And that can be not necessarily just based on affordability, but actually based on a set of money beliefs that we grew up with. And those money beliefs can impact us negatively, even if we have a lot of money. It's not just people who don't have enough money that have negative money beliefs. It can impact all of us. And it goes back to how money was around us via those who brought us up, basically. And that can play out quite significantly in our adulthood.
I love that. Yeah. And, that is so true because, you have all these terms like money doesn't grow on trees, or, so many different mindsets around money. It could be of lack or abundance, depending on, like you said, the environment. So for people who are at the point where they recognize they want to do something different, that it is a mindset shift that they should make, what are some things that they should start doing? Is it reading certain books, or, what would be their first step to kind of start that journey to
Yeah.
better money management?
Absolutely. The first thing is as you've just said there, actually recognizing that you
Mhm,
have a money belief that isn't serving you very well.
mhm,
Because
mhm,
in recognizing you have that money belief, that is when you can do something about it. So
mm,
what I very often say to my clients is, write down all of the negative money beliefs you feel that you have. And I'll say, start off with 5, and I'll write down 5, and I'll say, right, add 5 more. So they will write down things like, I never have enough money. Um, I run out of money at the end of the month. I can't make any more money, etc. So they will
mm,
write down what those negative money beliefs they have, and then I will get them to write them in the positive. So I
mm,
will find ways to make more money. I have enough money.
mm,
Money is abundant to me. So everything they've written in the negative, I get them to write in the positive, and then
mm,
out loud. I then get them to choose 2 or 3 of those negative statements they've now written in the positive, and get them to read them out 2 or 3 times a day out loud to themselves. Another thing to do is to create a stick man. So to draw a stick man and
mhm,
give it a negative name. So something like negative Norma. So negative
mhm,
Norma, you then write down all the traits associated with negative Norma. You
mhm,
will then write another little stick man, stick woman, and you will give her a positive name. So it could be Abundant Andrea. And for Abundant
mm,
Andrea, you write down all the positive traits you can think of about her. Then, when a negative thought comes into your mind, it is simply a case of recognizing that negative thought. That's going to be negative Norma, for example. And basically, you can say, negative Norma, get out of here. Abundant Andrea is now running this show. Because what you are doing is you are recognizing you are having a thought that isn't serving you well. And you are
Mhm.
replacing it with something more affirming and something more positive. And something that somebody said to me a long time ago, where belief goes, the mind will follow. And it is
Mm.
all about having the belief, because somebody with a negative mindset will essentially also, because they go hand in hand, be suffering from low self-esteem, low self-worth. And it
Mhm.
is about understanding how one impacts the other and making
Mhm.
positive decisions to change it. Because your mindset is very clever. Your mindset will go where you allow it to go. So if you start consciously thinking, I don't want to have that negative mindset, you will start
Mhm.
where when it pops into your head, and you will be able to flip it and turn it
Mhm.
around. And the more frequently you do that, the less frequently the negative mindset will creep in.
I love that because, I think that's a great thing to start with because a lot of people I've read this book, The Four Agreements. Have you read that before?
No.
Okay, well, it's just like we just accept things, so you grow up with these certain beliefs and
Yeah.
it just is. You
Yeah.
don't question it or anything. It's like you don't have a reason to. But when you have the two different people in front of you, you have that moment to consciously recognize that you don't have to choose to keep up with that same mindset.
Yeah.
And if it's not serving you, it really doesn't make any sense to. But sometimes when we're just in it, it's like somebody who needs glasses, but they don't know they need them until they go to get an exam,
Exactly.
So it's kind of that same thing, but, really being able to visually recognize it's not anything against me or me not being a good person or whatever, which we normally attribute ourselves. It's like, oh, I'd never do anything right. Well, what does that have to do with you having money in your savings account or not? But we just kind of lump it all together. So I think that really is a great thing to bring up. So
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, so as a female discussing this type of topic with the money, what are some things that you would want to tell women to empower them? Because, you kind of have some people feel that women can be great money managers, and then others are like, hey, they spend money on purses and shoes and, do they even know what they're talking about? Right.
Yeah.
So, what advice, because a lot of women can be intimidated when it comes to money management
Yeah.
and, to not want to admit what they don't know or whatever. So, in terms of that esteem that you were mentioning, what are some things that you would recommend them to do with that?
Okay. This conversation could last a long time. I think, first of all, independence is key. Never
Mhm.
ever be reliant on somebody else to manage
Mhm.
your money or be
Mhm.
responsible for the money that you have. Because in doing
Mhm.
so, you're giving away your power.
Yeah.
As women, we will largely, until we start to realize we're doing it, we will largely undervalue ourselves to the point that we undercharge and we overdeliver. We will always, always overdeliver. And we mustn't do that. We must understand the value that we bring and be paid fairly for that value. It is a case of putting boundaries in place to ensure that we feel what we have to offer is being valued, and equally that we are able to say no when somebody oversteps those boundaries. It's not a case of us being selfish or trying to be awkward. It is simply saying, these are my boundaries. This is what I am going to do. I agree with you. But in return, please do not expect me to work over the hours I've committed to. Don't be contacting me and expecting a response at the weekend. It is about being very clear with regards to what you will and won't do.
Mm-hmm.
Women are no worse whatsoever at managing money than men are. You know, there are more men that have gambling habits and debt than there are women. It's a case of having the confidence, as we should have, the same confidence we should have in life.
Mm-hmm.
It is exactly the same as we should have with our finances. And we should regard ourselves and our finances in the same way we would having a conversation with our best friend. We wouldn't put our best friend down, and therefore we shouldn't put ourselves down in terms of how well we manage money and how good we feel or otherwise our relationship is with money, because we can change our relationship with money. We are able to view money in the good that it brings. It's about changing our mindset with regards to how we view money. I love money. I absolutely love money. I love what it can do for me. I love what it can do for my family. And I love what I can do with money for others. And an affirmation that I use all the time: the more money I earn, the more people I can help. The more people I can help, the more money I earn. Because some people will feel guilty when they are earning money. And because of that guilt, they will feel there's a need to have to spend it all just so they can get rid of it, because money's evil. You know, I don't want it in my life. And then what happens? You start worrying because you haven't got enough money, and off the cycle goes again. So I think it is about putting belief in yourself first and foremost. It is about understanding the value that you bring, and it's ensuring you are respected for the value that you are bringing. And those boundaries are there for a reason, and they are there to ensure that we all know the relationship, the contract in life we have with each other. And by you respecting your boundaries, in return, other people will respect you as well. And that's a continuing positive circle to develop in your life based on respect for you. But the most important thing is, as I said, is to view yourself and your relationship with money as though it was your best friend in front of you. And the conversation that you would have with your best friend is going to be a supportive one. It's going to be a one that brings out the value you hold for each other and the respect you have for each other. And don't give your power away. Respect that power that you have, and work every day to build that value and power that you believe is in yourself, because that way you will radiate it and others will hold you in that same regard.
I love that. That is so good. And what is it that you do? Because, when it comes to mindset, money, you have so many people that are not getting that right. There are people that are just dead ridden. They have anxiety about, their bills and, you know, uh, issues related to their health. It's just like a snowball effect. You worried about this, and then that affects your health, and then worrying about money, just the cycle that you mentioned. So, for you to have a different outlook, there are things that you have to practice because, society has this thing, well, everybody has debt. And it's okay to have a credit card. It's okay to put it, to charge an item and not pay cash. When you say you're going to save and pay cash for stuff, people are looking at you like, what?
Mhm.
Because it's not an everyday thing. So for you to maintain that level of um I guess, fortitude, with that mindset. What are some things that you practice in your routine that keep you, relevant when it comes to staying strong against some of those temptations when it comes to
Absolutely.
money?
Yeah, understand. So it is about having that self-awareness, and it is
Mhm.
about understanding when you are crossing over the line from doing something that is beneficial to doing something that is going to harm you. So going back to credit cards, for example, as you probably know, you have a better credit rating and an ability to get credit if you have debt, essentially. So to have a credit card, they have to see that you have the ability to manage repayments. That's a good thing. To not have a credit card can actually go against you if you decide you want, to buy a car and take out a car loan, or you decide you want a new piece of furniture. If you have never had a credit card before, you will struggle to get one. So never view credit cards as something that are really, really bad. What you have to do is to understand how much you can afford to have on credit and the impact that is going to have on your life. What you don't want is to end up every month having huge credit card bills and having to use one credit card to pay another credit card bill. So it's all about control. It is all about recognizing when you are going to have a problem because you are allowing money to control you. It is all about you being in control of money rather than money being in control of you. And that is why writing down your expenditure, looking at your bank statements, ensuring that everything coming out of your bank account you actually want to be paying for, rather than it, as I mentioned at the beginning, something that's slipping through and it's so small, you're not really worried about it. I've heard so many people saying, well, when I looked at my bank statement, I discovered I'd been paying $6 a month for a mobile phone that I haven't had for the last 10 years because I changed to another network. Well, $6 over a year times 6 years, that's just money that's just going that you've not had any use of, basically. So it's about being conscious about the decisions you make about money and being conscious about where you're spending money and doing everything consciously. It's like somebody who has the ability to walk a tightrope. They're aware of what's in front of them. They're putting their feet down and they're able to walk one step in front of the other, in front of the other. It's exactly the same with your money. It's having that ability to know what you can spend and what is going to trigger you to spend too much. And when you spend money, don't just go and spend it. Actually stop, pause. Do I need this? Or can I be putting that money towards something else? And when you become conscious about something, and when you allow your mindset to be conscious about something, that is when your mind will start to give you that little gentle tap on the shoulder, reminding you, do you actually need that? Do you need to buy that now? Would it be better to put that towards savings because you can do X, Y, and Z with that instead? So with the mind and with money, it is all about being conscious, because if you're conscious, that is when you are going to help yourself, basically.
I love that. And that is just some great advice because many of us, like you said, we give our power away when it comes to that type of situation, not being fully aware of the consequences. Yeah, you can buy that shiny object and it may even be on sale, but what are the costs to maintaining that? If you're even buying clothing right now that it has to be dry cleaned instead of just thrown in the wash. There's so many different things that we can kind of begin to take that moment to consciously think about it before we get involved in that. That's just some good stuff. So what is the best way? We have your website here, but how would you like the audience to reach out to you?
So they can either come onto my website and fill in one of the boxes there, or they can email me, which is Lesley, Lesley, it's on screen there, Lesley at lesleathomas.com. I'm on Instagram as the Money Mastery Business Coach. I'm on Facebook as the same, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Lesley-Thomas. So hopefully, but if you go onto my website, there's a contact me there with all my details, basically, including my social media connection points as well.
Awesome. And then what final word would you like to leave with the audience today?
Okay. I think it's all about being mindful and just being conscious about how we are and how we do our relationship with money. And the more conscious we are, the more positive a relationship we will have. We will get out of the current situation we are in, hopefully sooner rather than later. And wouldn't it be nice to look back and go, do you know, I managed to save X amount of money during that period of time, rather than look back and go, how much did I spend?
Right. So
So
true.
be conscious and understand what you're spending your money on. Enjoy spending it, but make sure you don't look back and regret anything you spent it on.
Awesome. Those are great words. Well, Lesley, we appreciate you and thank you so much for your wealth of wisdom. You know, money is always that taboo topic. Everybody wants to, be successful, have all the things that money can give us, but we just don't want to dive into that conversation, when it comes to looking in the mirror at ourselves and having that awareness so that we can make those small changes. A lot of times it's just small things, just something as simple like what you said is putting that money in a jar and thinking about it, and I would challenge people to say, hey, if you want to buy that thing on Amazon, write down how much it costs, put it in the jar and think about it for 24 hours and then come back to it, just something to kind of give you another step to take rather than just mindlessly doing what you've always done and then it leaving you in a place where it doesn't really serve you later on in the long run. So this has just been great information, and we want to thank you guys for joining us. I encourage you to reach out to Lesley. Her website is on the screen. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we will get those answered for you. But in the meantime, reach out to her. Have that conversation. A lot of the times it's hard for us to make a change if we don't talk to an expert, somebody who can help us. If you were dealing with a ailment physically, you would go to the doctor and get it worked out. So we can have ailments with our finances. So we need to seek the help of experts to help us out of that. So again, thank you again, Lesley. And we want to thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great afternoon and we will see you all the next time. Bye.
Bye.